tenacity, tearing down the obstacles and building bridges to success.
Thank you for joining this class. This master class number 6, as His Excellency Dakar has said, says tearing down obstacles and building bridges to success. I have with me my lovely wife, Chaplain Amanda Randolph. I think she's on. She may have some. She says she has some technical difficulties of computers. So we'll keep rolling. I'd also like to invite in our panel. We have Dr. Donna J. Payne, Chaplain Payne, with us. We have Dr. Letitia Nicole Betty is with us on this panel. And we have Dr. Shonda D. Moss. She's with us, and Dr. Nakisha Menifee as well. There's my wife, Chaplain Amanda Randolph. As we start this off, 2 things I was thinking about is 2 parts. It's not only tearing down obstacles, but building bridges to success. So as we open this up, I want to keep that in mind. We're going to talk about not only tearing down those obstacles, but we want to give those that may be listening some keys to building bridges to success. One of the things, as we start off, one of the things that I know we've all have had, I'm pretty sure we've all have had to overcome something. We had to tear down some obstacles. We had to jump over some hurdles to get to where we are, to get to the place of success that you are right now. One of the things that I wrote, I think I posted something on Facebook this week about, in order to become successful in life, 2 things you have to overcome. Number 1, you have to overcome the opinions of others, what others say about you. And I think you have to overcome what I call the 3 E's of limitation. The 3 E's of limitation is, number 1 is education. You're not smart enough. But money, you're not rich enough. And then E, the last one, was environment. You're not good enough. So you're not smart enough, you're not rich enough, and you're not good enough. Those are I call the 3 E's of limitations. So those are things I think those are like obstacles you have to overcome. And I think in order to tear down those, you have to tear down those obstacles, but in order to start building, you have to begin to build from within. I know some of you can say most of you probably had to start building from within in order to start building from without. What I mean by that, you have to start on the inside. You have to start with you. You have to start with your mindset. You have to start with your own limitations. So let's talk about that. Well, we'll begin with, we'll go to Dr. Letitia Nicole Betty.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much for that question about our obstacles. And as you were speaking, I literally was thinking about the actual title, Tearing Down Obstacles and Building Bridges to Success. And the obstacles that I had to face, being from a single mom from Detroit, Michigan, on the West Side. We didn't actually, have money, and people would actually put titles on you as you're going to be just like your mama, just like your dad, or, those titles when people speak death into you. And so I had to go through those obstacles to see myself the way our God sees us, or sees myself. I'm going to make this very personal. And so when I left Detroit, Michigan with $15 and 4 outfits in 1992 to come to North Carolina, I came with a mission. And so the first thing I wanted to do is unite people that was just like me and build a common commonality, meaning that we come from places that people say that we wasn't going to amount to anything. And I wanted to make that a lie. The next thing I wanted to do is learn. I want to learn to win, but I also made sure that I learned how to make those teachable moments learning instead of losing. I don't look at anything as is negativity. And so I learned how to change my mindset. And then I learned how to empower myself as I'm empowering others that may have been called names or may have been spoken death into and said that you wasn't going to amount to anything, and that you're going to be just like this and just like that. And guess what? By empowering myself and empowering others, that's why you see me today with this hat on. And I know I'm going to keep it real short, but I also focus on listening. And see, we have to focus on listening who we allow pour into us so we can determine what comes out of us. And I'll yield my mic.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Letitia Beatty. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input. Thank you for sharing with us your story and how you overcame those obstacles. I did say the 3 E's. I said economics, education, and environment. Those are the 3 E's of limitation. I missed the E of the E. I want to let my Amanda. You have anything you want to say, Chaplain Amanda Randolph? I'm doing a lot of talking. I'm gonna let you come in.
Thank you, Chaplain Thaddeus Randolph. You're doing an awesome job. And I like how you led off with overcoming those 3 E's as environment, number 1, education, and economics. And of course, for both of us, what we may consider to be hindrances as well. And those hindrances became obstacles, or they can become obstacles for others as they're growing and going in life. And one of the things we have to do, I've also learned, is overcome not just the fear of people and not being enough for other people, but I have to be enough for myself. And I have to understand the value, the intrinsic value that I hold and that I bring to those that I come in contact with. And I think being a part of God's You helps us understand the value that we bring to others. And it helps build us in our self-confidence and our self-esteem. And we're learning tools and we're networking with others in order to grow as well. So I appreciate that. And some of the obstacles that Dr. Letitia Beatty shared, single parent household, I also grew up that way in a single parent household. I'm also the oldest of my siblings. So I grew up with a lot of responsibilities, and those responsibilities put a lot of weight on me, and I had to overcome all that weight that I was wearing. And when I began to lay aside, as the scripture says, the weight setting me, then I could run this race that God has set before me and fulfill my purpose. And so that's also helped me overcome obstacles. And now I would like to ask, and I see Dr. Donna Payne is on how she was able to overcome an obstacle that she may have faced.
Thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Randolph and Dr. Thaddeus Randolph. How did I overcome an obstacle that I had to face? Number 1, I had to deal with 5 main things, and I'll be very brief. I had to overcome the thoughts of defeat, of not being good enough. After being told as a child I would not become anything or never be good enough, I became this great overachiever. So the first thing I had to do is learn to put new words on the old tapes. You never get rid of the tapes in your mind. Those words keep replaying and playing, but you have to learn to speak to yourself out loud and put new recordings on the old tapes so that when they play, you begin to hear updated information. That's what I had to do. The second thing is I had to deal with the thoughts of remaining the same. Sometimes people in your life, they say, I'm good. But what they're really saying is I want to stay the same, just like I am. And that phrase does not satisfy me. I don't use that phrase. Remaining the same means you become stagnant. You're making a lateral move. But if you make a lateral move all your life, I could not remain the same. Number 3, thoughts of removing the thoughts of listening to those or fighting those voices, those people who challenge you. I had to learn that I had to listen and do what the leader in charge is saying. And if you're going to go to a new height, I had to learn, I had to listen to the leader in charge. That means I had to submit myself unto the authority that I put myself in order to grow. Number 4, thoughts of fear. Of course, fear of the unknown. Noah was a great example. he was given a charge to do something that seemed ridiculous, and it took a very long time. Had he not been obedient, he would have missed his blessing, and he would have been consumed like everyone else. So I had to get over the fear, even though I went scared. And number 5, I had to get over the thoughts of the voices that were familiar to me. Sometimes I found out that those voices were actually my family. They were my best friends. They were my haters that I call friends, frenemies. I had to get over those voices, and I had to shut them out, and I had to do something different and go learn something new. Even though I felt like I was leaving them behind, I actually did. And I had to make sure that I was listening to the voice of God and not to the voices of my friends. I yield the mic. Thank you for this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. Those 5. Say those 5 again, just briefly say them again. Number 1.
Thoughts of defeat.
Okay. Number 2.
Thoughts of remaining the same.
Also defeat, thoughts remain the same.
Thoughts of fighting the person who challenges you.
Yes.
Thoughts of fear.
Mhm.
And thoughts of going against the voices that are familiar to you.
And I think everyone can relate to all 5 of those. So thank you for that. And I know on this panel, I got some powerhouse, so I don't have to say much because I know these ladies have a lot to share, and they have a lot of experience in this. Also, I want you to do is we're talking about obstacles. We're gonna, after we go through, we're gonna go to and start talking about how we're gonna share with people how to build bridges to success. Okay. Next, we're gonna go to Dr. Shonda Moss. Share with us some things you've overcome.
Good morning, everyone, to everyone on the panel. I send greetings. Now, I had to think about how far I wanted to go back on the obstacles that I was going to discuss. Well, I decided to take it from when I was a teenager. From a teenager being from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, everybody thought that we raised chickens and that we milk cows all day, being from the South. Well, to beat that stigmatism of that, and I decided that I wanted to better myself, not just in success in those days for me, from what my peers and what people would tell you, is having a baby, and the more babies that you had was more welfare checks that you could get. Now, beating that stigmatism was something that I totally wanted to overcome. So I had to decide at that early age of how I wanted to better myself. Well, how I wanted to better myself stemmed from my great-grandmother when she raised me. She raised me to be a woman of integrity. She raised me to have a desire to want more for myself and to make a plan to get there. Well, my plan was to go into the military. So I'm thinking that this is going to be an obstacle that I won't have to even endure to overcome. But as soon as I got into the military, going into the maintenance field, which is very uncommon for a lot of women, I found the biggest obstacle ever. Because I was a Black woman in a maintenance field, which was male dominated, I had no support. I had no one to really go to teach me different things. And because I was in the field of maintenance trying to prove myself, it was a very difficult road because most of the time people wanted to suppress you. They wanted to keep you down. And being in the military at that age, especially being a Black female, was something that was kind of like looked upon as a negative thing. And so me being who I was like, how do I overcome this? So what I did, they wanted to put me in the office. They wanted to make the woman the secretary. Well, I wasn't having that, at least not for long. So what I decided to do is I got in those technical data orders and I read everything that I could. I read everything from the top to the bottom. And when the males would go out to work, I would go out in the bays and I would perform maintenance on the items in which we had to do. And so it came a time to where things were being done and they couldn't figure out who did it. I would go out to those bays and I would repair or perform maintenance on what have you. They'd come back and it would be done. They'd try to figure out who did it. Well, in that, having a tenacity and a drive to go forward and do things, I became a master maintenance person in my career field. And that was just such a blessing to me to be able to do that. But I didn't let that hinder me. I didn't let coming from Mississippi be something that suppressed me. People tell me what I couldn't do. All I was good to do was making babies and milking cows. I got in the military and I made a difference at a very, very young age. And I thank God that it helped me to be the woman that I am now. So that's how I overcame an obstacle.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Our stories are very similar, being that you were in the Air Force and I was in the Army, and I'll have to share that at another time, but awesome. Dr. Lakeisha Menifee, would you share with us an obstacle that you had to overcome?
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I am grateful that the men went first. It allowed me to know that I am not alone in this world. When I heard all of you say that you were raised by your mothers, it showed me that there are so many women out here doing a lot of things, and you are raised in a world that, because I myself didn't have a lot of interactions with my father as well. And, you know, my mom did a lot of things on her own. And I think being that we are all woman panel, I want to add another E to that: environment, education, and economics, because one obstacle I feel as women that we all have to overcome is our emotions. Being able to properly manage our emotions. And I feel that in the world, many times especially when we're leaders, that's something that we have to be able to really have a good handle on. And I say that because throughout times as I've worked in ministry, I've had to be in positions where I would carry a lot of shame because of the things that I was going through in a ministry. At one particular time, I was publicly going through my divorce, and that carried a lot of shame with me because I was married to the associate pastor of the church. And at that time, I carried a lot of shame. And many people would come to me and have all of these prophecies about how I should handle it and how I should go through it. And throughout that time, I had to really get a good handle of my emotions because it was a public thing. And I kept talking to God about it. I was like, God, I need to lead this church. I said, God, I am supposed to lead this church. And God kept telling me every morning, get up, go to this church, go to this church. And I will drive to that church. And you know how, if anybody has ever been through a divorce, you know how you have that weekend visitation and be his weekend with the kids and all this kind of stuff. So, and every morning I be saying, okay, God, I'm supposed to go. So eventually God released me from the church. And I was like, okay, God, so I'm doing good. And I'm at my new church and all this other kind of stuff. And then God told me, go back to the church. I said, God, why are you playing with me? And on this particular day, this is when he brings his new fiance to the church. I am not making this up. I was like, okay, God, you really got some jokes. You got jokes today. Okay. So I go back and then I say, okay, that was just me visiting, right, God? So no, he wants me to stay. So I'm staying. I'm helping with Vacation Bible School. They get married. They have another baby. I'm like, okay, God, you playing with me. I stayed a whole nother year too, still serving in the ministry. God, throughout that process, God helped me to learn how to manage my emotions, because there were so many women that came to me in the church, older women, 50, 60, 70, telling me, girl, how are you gonna let this happen to you right here, right now? This cannot be me. Sister, you want me to do something? And I'm like, no. My pastor counseled me through that whole time. And I was like, Pastor, he say, sometimes you have to look a situation dead in the face in order to get through it. I got up every morning, and I went through that. So it allowed me to see that I was more mature than I ever thought that I could be. So when things do come against me and there are like certain circumstances, God allows me to see that, you know, I know how to get through it. I know how to go to my prayer closet. I know how to get my scriptures. I know how to evaluate, what the root cause of something may be. And at times it's painful. At times it's challenging. At the same time, I say, God, I know this is you, God. I know that this is something connected to my purpose. I'm not going to allow whatever it may be to hinder whatever that blessing, whatever it is that you have for me in this season. And I like what the sister said about Noah in her testimony, because when Noah was doing, Noah knew that this is something that God had called him to do. And you have no idea, because I have been looking at Noah. God had told me a few weeks ago, start studying Noah. I asked my associate pastor at my other church, I said, God is really leading me to Noah. And I had no idea why. So when you start talking about it, it was such a blessing to me, because I started looking at Noah and I was like, why was Noah building this ark and nobody wanted to listen to him? So I started looking at his lineage and I was like, oh my God, Noah was in that lineage to Cain, a murderer, that Cain and Abel story. Who's going to listen to somebody with that type of lineage? Who want to listen to a woman talk about marriage that's been divorced and going through one right now too? Who want to listen to a woman like that that's been divorced 2 times? But God knows that there are some single mothers out there that are going through something, that are raising some boys. Some Black boys that are out here going through stuff. God know who is coming and he know who to send, because there are more out there that have a testimony like Dr. Lakeisha Menifee, Dr. Kiki, that had to have one of those, I don't know how many of y'all watch Empire. Me and my son had one of those Cookie and Hakeem moments out there this season, because he didn't know who Dr. Kiki was, but praise God, he graduated from high school okay? He didn't know. And I know y'all brothers know about that. If you was raised by a single mother, you don't raise up against your mama. That's not something that you do. But I praise God for everything that he has brought me through. And I thank God for all of those things, but you really blessed me when you start talking about that, Noah. And I don't take nothing from my journey, but I know that one thing about the emotions, that is the one thing in my life that God has had to deliver me through. And I yield my mic.
That's awesome. When you started talking about emotions at the beginning, it made me think about some of the things that used to be said back in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s when it came to hiring women, specifically when it came to hiring women for management positions or being in business. And have a woman do these things because they're so emotional or they'll get too emotional. Well, there's a purpose. God gave us emotions. We have to learn how to manage them and make sure that we have control of our emotions and our emotions don't have control of us. And if we're going through that process and we're willing to learn, God can help us through that. And I really appreciate you sharing your story and your testimony. And I appreciate all of our panelists this morning. And we're going to move now to how we can build bridges to success. And I'll just share very quickly for myself. One of the things I like, what I believe it was Dr. Donna J. Payne, one of the things that she said was 2 of the things. She said she had to change the narrative. This is what I heard. May not be your words verbatim, but this is what I heard. Change your narrative, stop being comfortable and stagnant, and then you have to be willing to submit or listen. I said 2 things, but it's actually 3. You have to listen to those that are in leadership over you. So one of the ways for me to build bridge to success in my military career, I started out enlisted, and then I went from enlisted to becoming a warrant officer, which is basically a technician or a specialist within our field. And we are officers within the Army. The Navy has some as well, so does the Marine Corps. And the way you do this is you go through training. Well, when I first considered applying, I had a warrant officer tell me that I'd never be good enough for that position. So what I chose not to do was listen to what this warrant officer said. And I began to within myself say, I can do this. And so in order to build a bridge to success for myself, I had to start listening and seeking out coaches and mentors within the military that could help me get to my next phase, the next step that I believe God had for me to do. And I believe that's one of the things that we all can use is someone that can coach or mentor us to get to the next level. Because one of the things that I've often heard is that if you're the sharpest knife in the drawer, then maybe you need to change the drawer that you're in, because that means all the other drawers all the other knives around you are dull. And the one thing that the scripture tells me is that iron sharpens iron. So in order for you to be sharpened, you got to be sharpened by someone that's sharper than you. I hope that makes sense. So for me to build that bridge to success, I had to find a coach, a mentor, someone that was going to pour into me, listen to me, and correct me. And I had to be willing to listen to what that person said. So that was me building a bridge to success. And I'll also ask you now to share how you build a bridge to success. And I'll go back to you, Dr. Lakeisha Menifee, if you would share with us how you built that bridge to success.
With me, it's the same thing you just said. With my company, I hire people that are much more talented, and I accommodate for my weaknesses. One of my weaknesses, and I'm pretty sure that y'all see it, I'm time management. Everybody on my team they're excellent at time management. They keep calendars. They have everything that they help me to schedule. They help to support me with that. And I hire additional support to accommodate for I'm trying to work to build my marketing. I think I got an excellent solution for that. So I accommodate to build for my weaknesses, and I hire people that are much smarter than me. And then I'll allow the team to do the work for me so that I can more so supervise and pull myself out so that I can continue to build the partnerships, to build the grants, to do those things. But it's a very hard struggle at the beginning, because at the beginning, you're doing all of the work. You're writing the grant, you're teaching the class, you're doing all of those things. But as your company grows, you have to be able to release that level of control over to other people that you do trust. And the hardest thing is just to find that level of trust to those people, and to pray for God to send you kingdom building people that are going to have that same fire and that vision that you have, and pour into what you have. It's just that trust factor. And that's the hardest thing, but you just have to know that God is sending them. And when God sends them, you have to release that power and that control. And for the most part, I've been hurt so much during my career that it's been hard for me to release that control. But I just been allowing God to do it. And for the most part, I have people in my company, if they see something, they'll say, no, Dr. Kiki, you need to let them go. I saw it, you need to let them go. And I trust the team that I have around me. And that's what I've been doing so far. And they keep me on time. Like my daughter, she was like, Mama, you need to get there. She's been the one on the phone, fixing my computer, fixing my things. And she's been the one helping me. So my team helps to support me because they know I have so much going.
Awesome. That's a good point. Hiring those that you know can assist or do the work that you yourself cannot do. That is an excellent example of building a bridge to success. Next, we're going to go back to Dr. Shonda Moss and ask her to share how she built a bridge to success.
Well, the Word of God tells us in all of our getting, get an understanding. Well, being an education training specialist, for me, I thought initially that meant going back to school. I'm a habitual learner. I continued to go after degree after degree after degree. But then God had to show me that that's all fine and well to get the knowledge, but I had to get a spiritual foundation to perceive that. And so in that, I started teaching. And in my teaching, I started with the vacation Bible schools. And then I started with the Bible studies in the Sunday schools. which they don't really have anymore. Sunday schools are almost obsolete in most churches nowadays, but I started as a Sunday school teacher. And so not only was I going through education as far as secular knowledge, but I was building my foundation for as a spiritual. That was one of the ways that I thought about how to build success, but not just for myself, but for other people, because as I was giving out, God was also pouring into me. And so I continued that. I continued on, and I thought, I said, okay, well, God, maybe this is just it. But God said, no, I not only want you to just be a teacher, I'm going to take you to a facilitator. Then I'm going to take you to management. And the more he elevated me and moved me into different positions, I was able to touch the lives of young girls, young boys. And that led me into another degree, which I have a degree in crisis counseling. I thought I was done with that. Then God moved me into a position of being a therapeutic day treatment counselor for troubled teens. So everything that I did coincided with the ministries that I was in, whether it be from prayer team lead, whether it be from visiting the elderly, whether it be from visiting troubled teens in the juvenile system or prison ministry. I thank God that he blessed me to be able to go through using the vein of education and being in the church and being in ministry to parallel where I was not only just taking myself, but I was also being a blessing to other people and not necessarily looking at it like, thank you, Jesus. I'm thanking God that he allowed me to be used, to be a vessel, to be able to take other people and see where they are, because I know where I came from. I came from the state of Mississippi where it was impoverished, where we were oppressed, where we were downtrodden, and to be able to build a bridge for other people. Not only was I able to tell people about it, but because I lived it. I thank God that I was able to live it and going through the process myself. Everything that I've gone through hasn't just been for me. Everything that I've overcome has been to bless somebody else and to show them how to go farther than where they are. And I thank God that even now, and I'm gonna tell my age, I'm over 50 years old, and I'm back in another degree plan. This is for my life coaching, but this is for me. And also, even with the life coaching, it's going to be able to help families. It's going to be able to help somebody else. So that's how I, as an individual, I'm able to bridge it. It was through the vein initially of education, but now that I'm at the age that I am, and I've been in different churches and different ministries and different positions as leaders, I thank God that he's given me and equipped me. So in all my getting now with the foundational of knowing who my God is, I'm able to bless people and to manifest those things and to share those with people to get them to the next level where they need to be. That's my bridge.
Awesome. Thank you. We have two more that we would like for you to share very quickly, if you would, how you are building bridges to success. So we're Dr. Letitia Beatty and ask her if she would share with us how she built a bridge to success.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And how I build a bridge to success. First, I had to realize that I was purposed to be successful. See, Jeremiah 29:11 says that the Lord had plans for me, and it was to prosper me and not to harm me and give me a hope and a future. So as I was at Livingstone College first, and I was declared dyslexic and I wasn't going to amount to anything, I looked at myself as no, but I still have purpose and a plan. And so to make this brief, I'm just letting you know that is other people out there that I help that have a purpose and a plan to success, and they may have difficulty, maybe reading, maybe difficulty, maybe learning, but God still has plans for them. So I make sure that they're successful because God made sure that he built me to be successful. I yield my mind.
That's good. So you overcame it's not so much a disability. I don't want to call it a disability, although people call it a disability. It's learning, but it was dyslexia. Did I hear you say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So overcoming dyslexia. So that's not allowing your disability to own you or control you or become you, but overcoming it by doing things that can help you not be stigmatized by it. Would you say that's a good kind of
Absolutely, because they will put you in a box,
explanation?
put you in a place. So you're absolutely right.
Good. Okay. All right. There was a question that Dr. Chuck Barlow asking. It's actually kind of twofold. He asked two questions. What are the barriers that young people ages 15 to 29 some of you since the pandemic, post 2020, or can you share a barrier you overcame as a youth or young adult that helped you make a transformation? And I think you kind of just shared with us, Dr. Beatty, how you overcame being labeled as being dyslexic. And I know that may not get Dr. Donna Payne, just to success, please.
Yes, I chuckle a little bit because I feel like the environment that I grew up in was almost like living with the Jebusites and the Hittites and the Perizzites. It was a crushing spirit and it held you down. And if you tried to exceed the rim of the cup, they all gathered together to pull you back down in it. Not that they were bad people, they were good people, good
Right.
boys. They just wanted to crush you. So I had to come to some realizations to build a bridge to success. The first one is I had to read stories about other successful people. I read the story of the Ebony and Jet founder, John H. Johnson, how he started his company with $500. You think your story is bad, read someone else's. Number two, I had to become honest with myself. I had to realize that in order to grow, I had to be honest with God. No exaggerations. Don't over exaggerate the story. Just tell the truth. Admit when you've slacking, admit when you've derailed, and give your anger to God. Number three, I had to communicate truthfully to myself. I had to believe the words that I was saying. If I'm going to be on time, say I'm going to be on time. That means being early. If I'm going to be late, say, you know what, I'm not going to make it there on time, but just communicate what the truth is. And when you walk in the truth, you can hear and see a lie, and you can make sure you're not a part of it. And number four is you have to let go. I had to let go of non-producing projects that didn't bear any fruit, like Jesus, who the Son of God spoke to the fig tree out of season. And when he put a demand on the tree, it didn't produce. But because he is the Son of God, you produce when he says produce. And so what happened? The tree was struck down by the root and withered. So you have to make sure that you're producing in I had to make sure I'm producing in all the things that I do. So those were my bridges to success. It was really self-actualization, just understanding who I am in Christ and being truthful and honest with myself. Thank you. And I yield my mic.
So I think.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you if you very quickly. I caught number one was read some story. I didn't catch number two because the third one was be truthful. And then number four, I just heard let go.
Okay, number two is be honest with the Lord and yourself. Be honest. Don't over exaggerate your story. It's easy to tell a tall tale when the other person was not there. You don't want to over exaggerate the truth. That's how people believe lies about other people, because they don't fact check. So you being the storyteller, tell the full truth. And number four is let go of non-producing activity, projects, businesses. If they don't produce, let them go. And I talked about Jesus, the Son of God, putting a demand on the fig tree, even though it was out of season. He demanded a fig, and the tree did not produce. So as a result, it became unworthy of ever producing fruit again. And Jesus put an end to it by withering it by the root. I hope that was helpful.
Well, thank you, ladies, for all sharing not only what you've overcome. We talked about education, economics, and environment you're in, but you all had keys to successes. Just taking some notes. What you do if someone's out there listening, you want to overcome, build bridges to success, is finding mentors. I heard that, finding mentors, someone that can mentor, someone that's been where you're trying to go, and they can help take you through the process. Number two, I heard hiring gifted people. Hiring gifted people that knowing that you are a limited resource, that you can only go so far, only so much knowledge, only so much strength that you have. There are gifted people that can do things that you maybe cannot do. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, but knowing your weaknesses and hiring gifted people to help you. Another thing I heard, education and training. Begin educated and training to help you building that bridge to success. Another one I heard is know that you have a purpose, regardless of where you are right now, no matter what environment that you're in. Know that God has given you a purpose, and for you to accomplish and go forward in him. And I heard, be honest with yourself and God, communicate truthfully, let go of non-producing projects. That's a good one. Letting go of non-producing projects. We only got a few more minutes left, but I wanted to share my answer to Dr. Chuck Barlow. I wanted to know, can you share a barrier you overcame as a youth and a young adult to help you make a transformation? I would say one of the things that for me growing up that I think helped me and propelled me to where I am now is I came out of the environment that I was in. I was able to come out of the environment that I grew up in, was able to be exposed to other things, to other people, to other cultures, all those things that kind of opened my mind up to new things instead of just being constricted into that environment that I grew up in, being constricted to what I call at the time was more of you won't get out of this place type of thing. But to be able to move out of that environment, to be exposed to other cultures, other environments, to other people, to see how everything was not like it was where I was from, that there was other things there was other parts of the world to explore. So that helped me to rise above and to help me to build a bridge to success as well. So thank you to everyone that shared with us on today. Thank you to all these ladies, to Dr. Donna Payne, Chaplain Dr. John Payne, Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty, Dr. Shonda Moss, Dr. Lakeisha Menifee, and my own wife, Chaplain Amanda Randolph. Thank you guys for joining and sharing with us on today. And we're going to turn the next part of this session over to His Excellency, the Car Banks, and we're going to ask him to take over at this time. Bless you.
Hello. Wonderful. Did you guys get a taste of what to expect for day 1, day 2, day 3, and why you need to invite everyone you know to be on? Have to. Based on some people being ill, etc. We are going to revisit the graduation speaker list. So some of you maybe brought up as speakers to fill in for those who've had difficulties being on. At this time, I want everyone to go ahead, and if you've not registered for day 1, 2, and 3, please do it now. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that, as well as to bring up the God's You app.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I want you all to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And stay tuned. We have some more messages that follow. I'd love to see you tomorrow morning, as we do have our God Success Teach and Pray every day. And I look forward to seeing you next week on our Wednesday.